Hello. Today I will be discussing the strategic failure of Blockbuster. A bit about Blockbuster: it was founded in 1985 by David Cook, and it is an American-based provider of home movie and video game rental services through these mediums. I believe Blockbuster failed because of an adaptation problem, a synergy problem, as well as a stakeholder problem. The adaptation problem has three components, the first being Porter's five forces. As we can see, rivalry of existing competitors and threat of substitutes is quite high in the video rental industry. Having said that, consumers have low switching costs between competitors like Netflix or substitutes like playing outside. What Blockbuster needed to do was innovate or cut its costs to compete, which unfortunately it did neither of. By doing nothing, they essentially were letting these new competitors come into the environment. Next is economic logic. Blockbuster relied a little too heavily on late fees for a portion of its profits. In 2000, 16% of its revenues were solely from late fees. So when Netflix came into the environment and did not have any late fees, this had a significant impact on Blockbuster's revenues, because again, they relied a little too heavily on them for its profits. Lack of an adaptive strategy. So I believe Blockbuster did not have an adaptive strategy at all. They did not monitor their environment and were unable to identify opportunities and risks, which therefore made them ignorant to their competitors. Next is a synergy problem. Blockbuster was offered to buy Netflix for $50 million, which is now worth $80 billion. Netflix wanted to run their online brand, while Blockbuster could run their in-store brand. This would have been the perfect opportunity for synergy had Blockbuster even considered Netflix as a rival or even a business partner. By this point, Blockbuster was at its peak of growth and revenues, and they did not want to take any risks to jeopardize that. And then basically they laughed Netflix out of the room. Because again, they didn't know anything about their environment and were not monitoring it, they didn't even consider Netflix a rival and were unable to see how successful or potentially successful Netflix could really be. Third is a stakeholder problem. So basically the CEO had high values and wanted Blockbuster to be the movie expert. They thought Netflix was too niche, so overall they wanted to provide people with a fun experience when they go to the store. However, this was not communicated to employees or consumers. So since the CEO wanted Blockbuster to be movie experts, they should have incentivized their employees to build these relationships with customers and be the movie experts. No training was provided. So therefore, consumers did not have any value added when they went to the store, so they seek the value elsewhere, such as with Netflix. So I have two recommendations, the first being to monitor the industry. So much like we saw with the air conditioner and fan example in class, people stopped wanting air conditioners when they realized that it was bad for the environment or there was something wrong with it. So the same could be true for Blockbuster. If Netflix starts to fail to meet people's needs, not providing movies that they want, then perhaps Blockbuster could swoop in and open some retail locations again and provide people with a great experience that they're missing from Netflix. And the second is Dish Network improvements. So in 2011, Dish Network bought out Blockbuster. So I believe that they should try to compete on different dimensions because right now they're trying to compete on the same dimensions as Netflix. When Blockbuster first opened, they did not offer any pornography and they wanted to be a family-friendly store. So I believe if they do this again and try to be a family-friendly streaming service, then perhaps this is a way to differentiate themselves. And again, doing some primary research on their competitors' wants and needs and what they're missing from Netflix. To conclude, Blockbuster at its peak had $6 billion in annual revenue. They were blinded by their profits, and their biggest failure was not changing at all. Thank you for listening.